Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to a Celtic World Tactical Review. I'm Anthony McGuire and I'm joined, as always, by Paul Massey as we look at Celtic in League Cup action, round of 16. Dundee United 0, Celtic 4. A successful trip to Tannadice. We got the win that we needed to take us through to the quarterfinals, where we have drawn Rangers away, Ibrox. Funny that's like the 11th consecutive League Cup home fixture that they've drawn. Statistics of which are 0.2%, 11 coin flips in a row. Anyway, it's all just coincidental. But Paul's nursing the lemsip. I'm nursing the Guinness. We're going to get through this cup tie in the next hour or so and get it all wrapped up, because that's kind of what Celtic did, Paul. They kind of wrapped things up and it was all pretty smooth sailing, wouldn't you think? But before we get into it, of course, obviously not feeling 100%, mate, but how you going? How was your weekend before the Lurgy set in?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm battling on. I'm fighting man flu for the sake of the tactical review. So I appreciate anyone who's watching and listening. Yeah, it's been typical. I finished up on holiday for a month on Friday, so yeah, not too much sympathy about that, I guess. But in classic timing, I felt the lurgy sort of coming on Wednesday, Thursday, and it hit full blown yesterday. So yeah, not feeling 100%. But at least I'm off work for a while, so I've got time to recover. And in fact, I think it must have been sitting in Saturday, because I went to bed after a few pints, having just got down here for the trip. We had a massive day on Saturday to get ready and get left the house. And then we had a few pints down here, and I completely forgot about the middle of the night kickoff and slept through it, woke up about 4 and then went, oh shit, the game. So luckily, the new Celtic player setup, this is the first time I was able to utilize it. Last time I tried it was hopeless and I couldn't get logged in properly. But yeah, they had the game up. The game was barely finished. Less than an hour finished, I think, at that point, and it was already up, full match up already in one sitting. None of this, log into one half, log into the second half. So that was good. Yeah, I watched that between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. and without knowing anything about the game. So yeah, it's as good as live, I guess. And still a obscenely early time in the morning to be watching a game of football. But yeah, pretty pleased with how it went. Probably not quite as free-flowing and exciting as the performance versus Kilmarnock. Mind you, Dundee United probably weren't quite as atrocious as Killie were in terms of their defending. But yeah, another positive performance, another hatful of goals. And it's all building as we work our way into the season. So yeah, plenty to be pleased about.
Morning, Shawnee. It's evening here. We're at that 12-hour time difference, rocking all around the world. Part of our American contingent of A Celtic World. Check their show out on a Wednesday morning or evening, wherever you are in the world. Get your comments in. I'll bring them up as we go along. Paul, yes, I actually had quite a dry weekend. I absolutely scunnered myself last weekend, so I needed a wee bit of a reset. I had a couple of, actually said I had a few wines, but I kept it sensible. I was working on Saturday. And then obviously the dread of the 12:30 in the morning. Well, so like middle of the night kickoff, which I got 2 hours sleep before, I got 2 hours sleep after then. Yeah, I was up early. So I kind of wrote off my Sunday pretty much. So I was absolutely shattered. But yeah, like I said, it was good to see them win, Paul. Let's just get into it, because there's not much point standing on ceremony. Team lines, a few changes to the lineup that took place the week before against Killie. Basically, Yang pulled up sore, so he dropped to the bench. That allowed a start for Sebastian Tenecti. He was on one wing, Camilo Duran on the other. Engels obviously has departed the building. At this point, it was imminent, but that has since been confirmed. He's off to West Ham for £22 million, which is a championship record signing, with hopefully some very juicy add-ons there as well. So we wish him all the best. And then Tierney was rested, so that allowed a first start for Liam Sales, who has been suspended for the first 2 matches of the season. So he deputises at left back. Rest of the team, as far as I can tell, Paul, unchanged. Oxlade-Chamberlain coming in place of Arnie Engels. And obviously AJ injured. So we've got Colby Donovan in the right back slot. And Martinoneill mentioned that there was no room on the bench for Tony Ralston. So he travelled with the squad, was available, but was surplus to requirements. Paul, obviously, the big talking point was obviously the departure of Engels during the week. Obviously, not so much for this match, but we do have a Champions League qualifier against Lask in a couple of days' time from when we're recording. Doesn't look like we're going to get a like-for-like replacement in prior to that tie. If maybe even the second leg, we can still recruit 2 more people for that squad if we sign anybody. I think we were chatting to Blackburn Rovers about their Hungarian national goalkeeper today, but there doesn't seem to be much concrete stuff in the transfer market at the moment. But we are the Arnie Engels fan club. A player that you'd have to say probably divided opinion amongst the Celtic support. We've obviously said many occasions that the £11 million price tag was probably a bit of a noose around his neck at times. But as we get into this game, I just kind of felt that we did cough up. Admittedly, a few of them were speculative efforts. Dundee United did hit the woodwork 5 times in this match. So you have to say that if Lask are a wee bit more proficient, we could be a wee bit of spot of bother. But before we obviously get into that bit of the game, will we send off for Arnie before we get in?
Yeah, well, we're both self-confessed Engels fans. Consistently since the beginning of his tenure, despite a lot of noise to the contrary. I think anyone that was of that opinion has pretty much been vindicated by the fee being paid, and the opportunity for him to move to, I guess, a stepping stone of the Premier League is the expectation. He'll have nothing consistent or confirmed, but it looks like the rumours are that there'll be a pretty hefty add-on for being promoted to the Premier League in season 1. So I guess we all hope that West Ham go straight up, because that will probably lead to more funds. A bit like if we get through the Champions League qualifier, I think there's more money going for Hassan. So look, at the end, by the end with add-ons, who knows? It'll be closer to 30 than 20, I would say. And I'm sure we'll have a sell-on clause in there as well. So disappointed to see him go. I think, despite being a huge fan, he's not irreplaceable as a player. But if we're not, I agree with you. I don't think we're going to replace him before this tie, which it will add a hell of a lot more jeopardy to the situation. What we really miss with him is athleticism. There isn't another player in our midfield that has the level of athleticism and the energy and just, I guess, engine to get up and down the pitch, presses without the ball, drives us forward with the ball. I'm just disappointed, because I think with the quality of player we've added to the squad, and I guess more to come, I think this could have been a real, I think he's been very good for us, but I think this would be like a massive step forward if he was playing with better players. Under a manager, obviously, who he shone under last year, outside of the period he got injured, and I think would have taken another big leap forward. But ultimately, cash and the lure of the Premier League, albeit on a sort of delayed basis, has won the day. And look, if you take your Celtic hat off, which none of us really want to do, from his point of view, the Championship's not a great quote. Everybody says, it's the toughest league to get out of. The quality in the Championship is absolutely dreadful. So he will stand out as a quality player in that league. He gives himself a season to bed in to the West Ham side at a lower level. And he'll be playing against a lot of players that are no better than what he's been playing against with us. The difference being that he won't be in the championship. So he won't be in the Champions League with us. But yeah, he should potentially arrive if they get promoted. He should arrive in the Premier League, with a good season under his belt and a key part of that squad. So, and he'll probably have trebled or quadrupled his wages, I guess, as well. So it's a short career. I can understand it, but it doesn't mean I'm not disappointed. And I do think that, he would have had an amazing season. I think if he's in that team for the next 2 games, we've got a much better chance of qualifying from that tie. There's a lot of commentary saying we just shouldn't have let him go until afterwards, but if he's worried about getting injured, which seems to be the story, and obviously it happened to Alistair Johnston, he saw his opportunity to leave if that was going to happen.
Trinity at Rangers. If there was even a bid there, it can happen.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a bid, but these stories are sort of imminent and around the place. And then the last thing you want is a player with his heart not completely in it for the biggest games of the season. So I just think like we've sort of bemoaned all pre-season is if we knew he was going to go, let's get his replacement in the building first. That really, you can do that. There's 80 million in the bank. You're trying to win another 40. Just plan appropriately. So as your dad said,
we're not saying spend 20 million quid on a player here. We're saying spend between 5 and 10 on somebody with similar attributes, maybe someone a couple of years older who's a little bit further along their journey, but who has those attributes that you need. Because like you say, Arnie Engels isn't irreplaceable. But he doesn't score a lot of goals. In 100 games for Celtic, he only scored 20 goals and 13 or 14 of them were penalties. So don't get me wrong, I'm not underestimating scoring penalties, but he wasn't a prolific goal-scoring midfielder. He was in there for his athleticism, his ability to pick a pass, basically doing a lot of the breakup and some of the work to give Cal McGregor half a chance playing centre mid. So, I mean, surely there's a few targets in Europe that you could identify in leagues comparable to Scotland, or, leagues where the wages aren't as great, that you could bring someone in and make a deal. And I think the players that we have been linked with, there's a couple on the radar that definitely fit the bill. But, like you say, Paul, it's like, get one of them in the door. Engels was going. That Martinoneill does not fancy Rio Hatate, so he's definitely for the off before the end of this window. I mean, obviously we've brought in Nico Bauer, and I think we'll get onto him. He obviously came off the bench, and he was it was like Peter Hatate, spoiler alert, but I was just watching this going this is like what Hatate was doing in the first sort of 2 seasons he was at Celtic sort of thing. He was only on the park sort of thing, including a couple of loose passes where he gave the ball away in bad areas, but that was always part of Rio's game as well. But we seem to have that covered. But as you say, Paul, there's just no one in that central midfield area that has the athleticism. I mean, the one that you say probably did have it was Paulo Bernardo. He's gone with an option to buy, so he's away. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is suspended for 3 European matches, so he can't participate in either of the last ties because he's carrying a suspension from
Besiktas in 2023, yeah. Which it sounds like John McGinley. Of 67 he'll hit the club too, which is a real concern if that's true. But you wouldn't put it past the situation, and look, the player should probably have been across that to some degree as well. But yeah, I guess he's been on a sort of funny career trajectory, so you can understand why that might have sort of slipped his mind.
Cedar was one of the guys, so he's Canadian, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
So
he's
a guy. And he also double at right back or left back. He can play full back as well.
Right back, I think.
That's
right back.
That would be a handy addition. And then there's the other. Is it the Bosnian lad? He's the other one that we were.
Mehemic is I think he's Bosnian, but he's more of an attacking kind of midfielder. Javidis Ginaitis is the Lithuanian at Torino, who seems to have been favourite. And we've been linked with him all window. Price tag floating around between 8 and 12, which is should it's in the ballpark. Do we want to spend that for a destructive type of player? I don't know. I think you need the legs in midfield. And yeah, I think he's 22 as well, but he's been capped nearly 30 times by Lithuania, and he's obviously played Serie A with Torino as well. So you'd be getting a player with a fair amount of experience there. Even if we get one of one or either, I don't expect to get two, but if we get one of those in, even if we get them in before the deadline and what we've probably got 30 odd hours at this point as we go out live now. Are you going to throw them straight in? No, probably not. So,
but you can call them in a week's time, I guess. But
you could, and they'll spend a week with the group, and yeah, they'll be ready to start. Then you would think. But yeah, I'd rather we got the whole point of, presumably the whole point of getting Bauer and Hassan in when we did is so that we could utilize the 2 extra spots without them taking up those spots prior to the first deadline. So you would hope that the club is, and in my view on that is, it's either a fullback and a midfielder, or it's a midfielder and a goalkeeper. But you would be leaning towards a midfielder and a fullback potentially.
Well, you're sweating on Tierney and Vilmi Salo. I never say his first name. Salo. Picking up an injury. Actually, they are the 2 places we do not have the greatest respects to Liam Stales. He is, he's doing a job and not much else. Alrighty. But yes, I think we've sort of covered the current squad situation where we're at. If anything happens live in the next 45 minutes, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll definitely put it up. But yeah, there's also a bit of chat about the Blackburn goalkeeper in the comments, and then just a bit of chat around Rio falling off a cliff. Yeah, if you're not getting played, it's kind of a bit of a chicken and an egg situation. It's kind of spiraling out the way. But yes, like I said, he will be out the door before this window is over. Gav's trying to shout at me because I haven't got the banner on there. There we go. Just realised. All right. Let's bring up some images and get into the game, Paul. So this is the first chance for Dundee United, because they hit the woodwork twice, and then Martinoneill made the comment, Paul, that we kind of scored at really good times, because Dundee United had a fair bit of pressure, created some chances. Probably, like I said, a little bit from lack of midfield running from us. I kind of felt like that was where they were hurting us. Interesting enough, Dundee United actually shaded possession 53% to 47% in their favour, which I didn't really feel watching the game at 12:30 at night that was the case. I mean, I don't think Celtic was massively, had heaps of possession, but I would have still thought 60-40 Celtic favour. But I guess we were just clinical, which you couldn't say that about that team last season. We were shocking last season. We were literally trying to walk it into the back of the net last season, and this season we seem to go to the park and we look like we're going to score every time. And I think part of that is our centre forwards, who didn't score again on the weekends, but was involved heavily for the second goal. Provides that basically touch point for the whole focal point for that whole attacking lineup, because it was interesting when he came off about 67 minutes. I kind of felt our shape kind of went over the place, and I just felt that although he didn't chip in with goals, just his presence, and when you actually watch the goals back, who was actually involved in some of the build-up for about 2 or 3 of the goals, just laying it back off and just basically, like I say, just providing a bit of a target. So it's something we didn't have really at any point last season. So it just shows you that if you spend a bit of money, get a bit of quality in that position, that spine of your team, it just improves Sebastian Tinekti, which I want to talk about as well. And obviously you've got Camilo Duran, like I said, playing that right wing position, not his preferred position. But I just kind of felt like, and then we mentioned this last week, but I'm just say it again tonight, that also brings out a better game in Nygren as well. So yeah, it's a lot to like. It's actually, as much as the kickoff time was horrific, it was. I thought it was a reasonably entertaining game to watch, and I thought the football was decent. But I would caveat that Martinoneill was like, we can play better. I think we definitely can play a lot better, and I think we need to tighten up a bit. But attacking wise, we're carrying a real threat.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's 3 games in. That's the other thing, right? It's 3 games in. Players are still getting up to speed. Some players are just getting to know each other. You hit the nail on the head with your choice of word in clinical. That's the major difference. United hit, it's been talked about in the comments. Everyone's mentioned it. United hit the woodwork 5 times. So they had chances. They just weren't clinical, and we were. We had more chances than the ones we put away, but we got a lot of shots on target. And you're right, we were clinical at key times. We'd been under the cosh a little bit. They'd hit the woodwork twice. Then we score. We're under the cosh a bit for beginning of the second half, and then we break up and we score, and we just take the wind out of their sails. So if they get one of those goals back at 2-1 early in the second half, or if they get the lead, then maybe the game looks a little bit more. Maybe it's a bit more troublesome for us. But no, I think, we were slack at times. We were a bit careless. I do think we missed angles in midfield, and that's part of that. We certainly didn't have the legs in midfield that we would have otherwise. I thought Oxlade-Chamberlain actually had quite a good game, certainly with the ball, but without the ball, he just doesn't offer the same level of intensity and energy.
Well, I just think this still image here, Paul, for me, just sort of like the amount of space there. Like you kind of feel that, the one of your 3 centre midfielders should be sort of like patrolling that 18-yard box. I mean, you can see obviously Nygren's here. I'm not sure if that's Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Well, I think the other thing here is you can see that is Nygren on the edge of the box, and that's who just behind him, and they both dropped their runners. That's their 2 players that are sitting there right on the 18-yard line. So, not only are the defense not getting out quick enough, but ultimately they are occupying the space they should be and covering the players that are in their zone. Is that Nygren and who didn't quite do their job here? They sort of switched off and let these players sort of drift off them. And it's a decent effort. Like obviously we do eventually get out. And interestingly enough, like they've hit the woodwork 5 times. They've recorded no shots on target in the game. So it is accuracy, right? If these were sliding past the post, the shots off target, they're hitting the post, but they're still not going in. So it gets a bit more. It gets obviously a bit more focus because it's that little bit more closer to going in, but I guess the point is they're not on target. The keeper doesn't have to make a save.
Yeah, it's an interesting stat that you hit the woodwork 5 times, but you don't have your register a single shot on target. It's like you're talking half a foot, and it's they all could be goals. But I guess that's just the frustration of it. I guess I did like Dundee United's press. I thought they pressed aggressively and sort of did put us under a bit of pressure, and it would be interesting to see if Last sort of identify that as a way for them to maybe get at us at Celtic Park and try and play in the front foot. I think their manager during the week sort of said that it's not enough for them to go in and just try and hang in. Like they're going to have to try and offer some sort of attacking threat. So I don't know whether that's just the manager's playing mind games or.
Well, yeah, they're scoring goals. They won 4-1 on the weekend. I think Friday night. They scored a few goals in earlier games. I don't know a lot about them. I believe they're pretty dangerous from set pieces. And again, we coughed up chances from set pieces in this match. So I think I think we should be slight favourites going in, probably just on the quality of players in the squad and the cost of it and all that. But we all know these games are riddled with jeopardy, particularly how early they come. As we say, we've sort of strengthened and weakened at the same time. Players are still getting to know each other. Some players won't be fit enough to play from the start. Some players won't be fit enough to finish the 90 minutes. So there's tons of jeopardy in this one. And I think based on results for both teams, I think there will be goals. Unlike the Kairat tie last year where there was nothing in either game, I think there will be goals. And it will just be a case of who can defend the better. Will probably prevail over the course of the 2 legs.
Yes, no, I agree. Right, so we're up to our goals, I think. I think this is what leads to the corner kicks, because it was like 2 corner kicks in quick succession, if memory serves me correctly. So we've got Calmack on the ball, played it through to Tinecti, ball comes across.
Cal just kind of drives around the outside.
Oh, that's right. It's Calmera does.
And then who can't get a full contact on it?
Yeah,
and then would flip straight to the
goal.
Yeah.
Gav's
you're right.
Gav's telling us with the stills.
Yeah, there's 2 corners on this side. This is the second of them. I think the first one kind of came out, and there was a player got to the byline and it got blocked off. Maybe it was Negrin himself. And then Negrin takes the corner. It's a brilliant delivery, and I had good delivery multiple times today. We will get onto Tinecti because I want to speak about him as well. But that was probably the main difference between those two, in that, you know, Tinecti had a lot of opportunity to put the ball in the box, and the quality wasn't really there for most of it. But Benji Negrin's quality and delivery was excellent. Obviously, he's taken some corners in the past, but with Engels out of the team, he obviously picked up more duty on that. And you know, do we put this down to is this the first one for our new set piece coach that we've poached from Hearts? Because it looks like it's from the training ground. Not dissimilar to the Carl Stafford goal at Tannadice a few years ago in the 9-0 game, which I've heard a couple of other people referencing. It was a great run by Trusty. It's a really slight contact, but it's a perfect contact. And yeah, Negrin's ball gives him the opportunity just to steer it towards goal and use the pace on it. And yeah, it's great to see us score a really nice goal from a set piece. And you can't underestimate how good a header that is. He's nearly at the corner of the 6-yard box when he makes contact with that, so he's well past the goal. He's got
that's
to steer
a really difficult skill. Yeah,
it is. It's really easy to either get too much on it and head it straight back out on the near side post, or get too little on it and just sort of sail harmlessly through and take out your teammates and it drift off to the far side of the box. So yeah, it's a really good header.
As an Ulster defender, I just think that if you've got somebody on the posts, they sort of stop those ones from going in. But anyway, I'm glad it. Obviously, I'm glad that it go in. But yeah, I just sort of look at that and go like, if the fullback would just stand on that post. But it seems to have gone out of favour these days. Everyone's a
bit of a mismatch on the defender. But you're right, a bit of a mismatch on the defender. I think it's Sapsford that is with him, and he's a striker.
But here's the thing, Paul, right? Because you've got who in the team now, Stales was playing as well, Trusty, Carter, Vickers. You've got four targets, reasonable aerial targets. So all of a sudden, opposition teams now have to decide how to prioritise aerial threats. So, you know, it's good that Trusty's chipping in with a goal, and you know, I think that'll probably that'll probably sort of secure his spot for. I think Trusty's been playing well, and I think the Trusty Carter Vickers partnership will probably be the one that we'll go with. But what was I going to say? You know, the chances of Carter Vickers playing a whole season is probably, you know, you wouldn't be betting that. So you know, you would think that Stales will be getting games here and there to sort of supplement those two. But preferably as a centre half, and like I said, not as left back. And no disrespect, I think he did all right, but I just don't think that's his. He did fine.
He did fine. He wasn't asked to do a lot, to be honest. But he did fine. I'm not going to get on Scales' back. I think, you know, he's asked to play out of position. He did a solid enough job. I think it was a good man management to give him minutes when he's been suspended, when he was a key player last year, and it makes sense to wrap KT up in cotton wool ahead of the next fixture, because he started the season in barnstorming form, so you want him to arrive into that match fully fit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Strange to have doctors just sort of saying here, like, look how this defender's defend this one against who. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's hard to tell from that image where the ball actually is at this point, but I'm sure it's a bit higher up towards whose head, not so much where the...
He's already headed it, I think, by this point. So I think he's headed. I think that's it, sort of in the... to the left of the post,
okay.
In like in the black of the sponsorship hoarding, just by the circle in there. I think under that K, it's just there. So I think he's already sort of tried to head it at that point. So he's probably just last ditch thrown himself and not really got anywhere near it.
And then I guess score one goal, great, gets you gets you ahead in the tie, but then to score 2 minutes later, just sort of really kind of that's probably better image I should have went with. I didn't realize that was the
Yeah, that is
there we go. All right, thanks, Jeff. Probably should look at these beforehand. Oh yeah, we wave. Yep. So Trusty's actually he started in the penalty spot, the run. But again, this is probably where your set piece.
Scales is probably running.
Yeah,
Scales is running a blocker for him, isn't he? So by the looks of it, so he's probably making it difficult for. And that's Rose, I think, there, who must be marking Scales. So he's already got a heavy run on Sapsford, who I think is probably just behind that group of players, and sort of he's lost him a bit early. He's never going to catch that.
That's four strong aerial targets there, so they're all capable of scoring with their heads. So yeah, it's good. I mean, as you say, Paul, I mean, he's not past the post, like he's literally on the edge of the 6-yard box. Like it's some header. I mean, that's decent. All right, and then we've got Oxlade-Chamberlain, and I think, you know, as much as like Oxlade-Chamberlain's not got the legs of a Arnie Engels, obviously players at different stages of their careers, I did think he still looked sharper than he has been, and also I felt his range of passing was good. And for this second goal, which I'm assuming the image is coming up, he's the one that makes the run.
Yeah, his range of passing was excellent. There's a couple of real raking balls out, you know, his inside left channel out to the right to Jan, which were great. And then this is, I guess we'll spend some time discussing the potential controversy around this goal. But it's just good following. It's good sniffing. So is that the Ox that's putting it into the area? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
that's
he plays it
on the ball there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's Negrin slides him in. So Negrin gets the ball. I think Duran plays the ball into Negrin. Yeah. Negrin slides it into Oxlade. It was good movement around here, and then Duran hasn't just sort of sat and admired his pass. He's followed it in and got himself into the dangerous area. And who's being fouled here? Like, he's being fouled, and then the ball does break off his hand. I think there's no doubt that that's what's happened. But Camilo Duran's done brilliantly. He's got himself. He's followed the ball in, and he's spotted where that ball's going to drop. He gets his body across. So I think there was a potential foul being looked at for his contact with the Dundee United defender. But what he's done really well. He's sort of got his foot across the defender, and then the defender sort of gone into the back of him. So if anything, it's potentially a foul against the United player if Duran comes a cropper, but he doesn't. He manages to stay strong, and then he just gets a lovely little sort of scooped finish. It's very calm and composed, given the sort of chaos that's around him. You know, his teammates falling over and has sort of knocked the ball with his arm, unintended, of course, but it's fallen into his path, and then there's defenders clattering around him, and he just sort of chips it into the corner. It's a really, really good finish. I think the running off and on the ball was great. I absolutely agree with Henrik Melarsson. I know there's a the other half of the city is going apoplectic again because we've had a handball help here. But yeah, I think it's a penalty if it's not given. So one way or another, it's fairly in the goal. But I think we're gonna show the handball rule, which indicates why it definitely shouldn't have been chopped off. And this is you might not like the rule. I don't really like the rules as they stand at the minute, but I do think it's pretty daft that if who stays on his feet and that falls at his feet and he nicks it, he knocks it in the net, the goal gets chopped off because it's at his hand. But if it drops off his hand and goes to his teammate and he knocks it in the goal, that's absolutely fine. So the rule is odd. There's no denying that, but that's what we're stuck with. You know, we're not in charge of deciding how the rules are written and or applied, but it's pretty clear. So yeah, despite various simpletons complaining and writing up petitions and various other bits of nonsense, it has to stand under the current laws of the game.
Well, I think as well was the fact, as you say, Paul, you can make an argument that who was fouled in the build-up anyway. Like, he's falling backwards. Like, there's definitely there's no intention. Like, it's an accidental contact from his point of view. So, from that aspect, it's not like he's laid it on a plate for Duran. He's going, "Oh, here, just you tap it. I can't do it, but you can," sort of thing. Like, he's sprawling all over the place. So it's a wonderful build up, and it's a really, really well worked goal. And this just takes me back to the point about who being that focal point. Like, he just brings you so much danger in that box, because centre halves are just stressing out that he's the guy that's going to get on the end of it, and then that just allows your Negrons, your Tenectes, your Durans to follow it in, and he'll create the chaos. And then I guarantee you there will be balls bobbling left, right, and centre all season. That if our wingers / central attacking midfielders are smart enough, there'll be tap-ins galore. Like, there'll be ricochets and bobbles and things just waiting there to be smacked into the back of the net. And in this case, it wasn't smacked into the back of the net, as you say, Paul. It was absolute, it was finesse. It was just a little sort of, I think somebody in the comments said golf chip. It really was. And it was smart as well, because the defender was right behind him. So he didn't really have the opportunity for a big backswing. He really had to almost toe poke it into the back of the net. So really, really good finish. 2-0 in the space of 2 minutes. So that was at the 24-minute mark. And you kind of felt that really blew the tie wide open, and sort of really meant that Dundee United had to really keep sort of pushing and going for it. And that, obviously, you would think at that point was going to create more opportunities. But in fairness to them, they hit the post again before the end of half time. And then I suppose I'll see where we're at with still images, but I think we're sort of that will probably be it to half time. But bear with me just a sec as I do that.
There was a little chance I think towards just before halftime, 2 or 3 minutes before halftime. Who gets?
Oh, there was the Oxlade-Chamberlain. There was the Oxlade-Chamberlain shout for a handball, because this was the other thing the Moon Howlers were raging about. But I mean, in this case, like, that's his shoulder. I mean, that's never been a handball as long as I've ever played football. And I know the rules have changed about 50 times since I've stopped playing football, but if it hits you up here, as I think it was Charlie McGrew said, under the Oakster, which you can only get away with saying that in Scotland, because no one else in the world would know what you're on about. That's never a handball. So play on. It's just, I think it's the way that he sort of sticks his arm out a bit, but it's like, well,
he sticks it out, and he sort of rises it a bit as well. But look, whether it's the shoulder or the very top of the arm, either way, that's not a handball under the current. Shoulder never has been. The top of the arm, t-shirt line, whatever is I think the new guidance. So, I think it's just because he does lift his arm and shoulder into that direction. So he's taking a chance, which I didn't think there was really need for, because it wasn't an imminent threat, and there's plenty of players in behind him. So I think it was a bit daft. It's probably just a bit of a reflex, which probably a player of his experience and all of that should avoid. But I think there was then the who chance late on, which I think is a pretty difficult chance for him to finish. But he's got Negrin inside him. If he just manages to sort of get some contact to square it back into that area, Benji Negrin's got pretty much a tap in. So there's definitely there was a bit of a chance there. But I think once we got up, we'd had a few chances beforehand. There were only probably half chances, but the majority of the possession was ours, or it felt like it was ours in dangerous areas. But we were just giving the ball away a bit cheaply. There was that one quite early on when maybe that's the one that ends up hitting. Is that one of the first ones that hits the post when Sinisalo sort of thumps it towards McGregor at a weird height, and he has to sort of crouch to try and chest it, and he can't control that chest, and it just sort of pings away from him, and they sort of move it about, and I think that's where they shift it. One of the shots that hits the post early on, but I thought maybe both halves we didn't really come out of the blocks quickly. I thought we let United kind of get into the game in both halves, and then we sort of took a little while to grow into it. Yeah, we did, and I do like that we've got that sort of capability to break quickly. I'm sure we'll come on to Mika Bauer as well, but I did enjoy that the majority of our team is now looking, and we've seen this across the games, particularly the last 2 games, is looking to make forward passes for the majority of the time and more quickly, whereas we're very used to seeing gay passing going backwards and side to side. I think there's a clear directive now to pass the ball forward as a sort of default position.
Just bring up the third goal, because obviously this allows us a chance to talk a bit about Sebastian Tinekti. I think this is like his performance on the weekend it was almost night and day to anything that I can recall seeing from him over a consistent game. Normally you see it in flashes, but his default action up until the weekend has always been pass it backwards, like play it safe. But there was a real emphasis on his play on the weekend to play it forward, to drive at defenders, to try and either get the ball across or win a corner or do something positive with the ball. And you can't underestimate, we've just signed Hassan, who's a winger. Obviously, Yang missed out because he's a bit sore, stiff, whatever. So he's obviously available. You've obviously still got the evergreen James Forrest on the bench. Jota started training, so you have to assume that hopefully he's not too far away. So Sebastian's probably looking over his shoulder going, well, it's my second season at Celtic. If I'm ever going to make it, I'm going to have to start putting in some performances. But I tell you what, if he puts in performances like he did on the weekend, you wouldn't be you'd be happy with that at left wing. Like he it was like yeah, I'm just like we've seen it in flashes. The goal we scored against Kilmarnock in the 3-2 game last season was an absolute beamer of a goal, but that's like the beacon in a very, very dark sort of performance of a season. But he ends up here with a goal. He gets an assist. If your wingers are producing those types of numbers in Scotland, then that's easily a 15-20 goal a game season, a 30 goal contribution season quite comfortably if he can sort of maintain those numbers. But I just like what I saw, and he credited Sean Maloney after the game. But we just need more of it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's a valid analysis, and I was keen to chat about it as well. I think all your points are absolutely on the money. I think the other thing I would add is O'Neill's comments in the week about Hassan. I think sort of indicate probably a word that he's had with Tinekti, or the coaching staff have had with Tinekti as well. Is he said that Hassan loves to go buy a player. He loves to get a player one-on-one and go buy them, and it's a dying art, and it's disappearing from the game, and it's not something he likes. So I would imagine that the wingers have all been told, if you get an opportunity to go past your man, do it. And you won't get, you're not going to get up the backside if you get tackled. Like we want you to commit your man. And I think one of the problems that Tinekti's had over his tenure, apart from obviously being in and out of the team, and some of that's down to his own inconsistencies, but I would imagine, particularly under Rodgers, the sort of instruction to keep the ball sort of at all costs, which was a sort of key part of his tactical setup. That's not the natural thing for a winger, is it? Right? You don't want your winger getting up to your defender and then checking back because he's concerned that if he tries to take his man on, he might lose it in a 50-50. You want wingers running at players and keeping them guessing. And if a defender knows that more often than not you're going to turn back and lay it off, you're not as scared to stay tight to them, right? Like if you're worried that a winger's going to try and take you on and skip past you, you don't want to get too tight. I used to play fullback back in the day. Wingers with pace, and obviously it sounds really kind of plainly obvious, but if a winger's got pace and skill, you're terrified of that as a fullback, because you get too tight, they spin you and they're away and they're in behind. You stand off them, they can run at you, especially if they can go inside and outside. But if you know as a fullback that your winger is probably not going to try and take you on either because he hasn't got the skill or he hasn't got the pace or he's off confidence and he's more likely to check back, you can pretty much back yourself to sort of stand up his backside and square him up and kind of shepherd him. And, you know, worst case scenario, he's probably going to turn back and pass it to somebody else. And after that, you've kind of done your job. It's up to your teammates to close the ball down on the next phase of play. So I think he's obviously had a clear instruction to just go for it and be a bit more decisive. The other thing we've seen with Tinecti in the past is he's sort of, I think, got in his own head a wee bit. And that probably comes from confidence as well, is that he's got the ability to go inside or outside. And I think it's half the time he hasn't made a clear, he doesn't know what he's going to do until it happens. So that kind of indecision is sort of left him sort of not really achieving anything. Whereas he clearly looked, like I said earlier, his delivery into the box was poor, but he was getting the ball. He was getting into space to produce crosses. So I can live with his delivery being poor in one of his first games of the season, because that will come over time. I like a lot of wingers. He looks like a confidence player. And yeah, I think he had a good game. And whereas we probably didn't play some of our best stuff in the second half, because we kind of, especially after this goal, the game was pretty much done. He did have a good second half. Obviously, he scores this goal. He drives at them. It's a really good goal. He takes it from Nygren, but then he drives at his man, and then he arrows it into the bottom corner. I think there was, on first view, and you thought, was there quite a little deflection in there as that sort of taking it past the keeper? But I think it's pretty clear that it misses everything, and it's a great sort of accurate drilled shot. A bit like, not like, if you compare it to the United shots where, they're drilling it against the post, he's finding the corner and tucking it away. So I was really pleased for him. And then obviously he gets involved in a lovely bit of kind of link up play for the fourth as well.
Yeah, no, I liked it. And just pulling it back like that, you're sort of, the keeper's unsighted and he's sort of obviously leaning towards his left side, thinking it's going that way. And then obviously he's managed to sneak it through the defender's legs. So, I mean, absolutely precision in the end. But again, it was like there's an end product. And I think that was the other thing as well. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes these crosses didn't come off, but a lot more times, and Edern said it in the post-match, said, well, I'm linking up with Seb, I'm linking up with Duran. Like, the team's playing more like a team rather than just a bunch of individuals. And obviously last season it was a dog's breakfast. You had Brendan Rodgers tactics, you had Wilfred Nancy tactics, obviously you had Martinoneill tactics either side of that. This season is obviously clearer messaging around what we want. We're willing to give up a bit of possession, but when we get the ball, let's create a chance. Like, let's not faff about with it. Let's get it up the other end. Let's see if we can create a chance. And that seems to be early doors, obviously, but it seems to be paying dividends, particularly obviously in Scotland. Whether it pays dividends in Europe, we'll find out in a few days' time. But I have to say, if we keep scoring 3-4 goals a game, teams are going to, the fear factor is going to come back. I kind of feel like the fear factor has dropped out of the Celtic team in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. But I think teams are going to be, they're going to be worried about they're going to be on the receiving end of a tanking. And you've got to bear in mind we're playing away, and admittedly the pitch is wonderful. I mean, they've obviously, compared to the absolute sandpit that we got beat on earlier this year, effectively last season. They've done a good job to get that surface looking a lot better.
I think the exciting thing for us and the scary thing for the rest of the league is it's not even really up and running yet, right? Like, some of it's looking quite good. There is some decent bits of link up play, but there's so much not coming off yet. There's so much not quite clicking. Even like when subs came on and off, like there was players running into the same areas and stuff like that. So, a bit like in the first game, the Dundee game, who was trying a couple of little back heels and flicks, and Duran wasn't quite on the same wavelength. Like, if these players play with each other over the next few weeks, you're really going to start to, and they spend time on the training ground together, etc., you're really going to start to see those little link-up bits and intricacies of interchange come off much more often. But the fourth goal did click, and it was a really nice little move in midfield. with probably the perfect timing. The sort of nicest part of it was, apart from the finish, which was excellent, is this little flick by Mika Bauer around the corner. He gets it fed into him, and it's just the slightest of flicks, but he flicks it perfectly, takes the defender out, and Tenecte's on it. Baird doesn't have to break stride, and then he just gets his head up and plays a perfectly weighted pass into Nygren. It's not a difficult pass, but again, Nygren doesn't have to do much to get it under control. It's in front of him. And the thing I love about this finish is Nygren doesn't even look up. He takes one touch to control it, and he doesn't look where the goalkeeper is. He doesn't look where the goal is. He just knows where he's putting it, and he puts it right in the corner, and just on the inside of the post. You can't save that. And he looks like he's, I wondered if he would struggle a little bit with, coming back from World Cup and all of that.
Sophomore season syndrome.
Yeah, but he's just carried on where he left off last season. And again, he's one that's massively benefiting from the additional quality all around him in the top end of the pitch. And I am gonna, not that he'll watch this show, but I'm now about to give a public apology, because I said we should have cashed in on Benjamin Nygren after last season. I couldn't see how he could top the season he just did. But I'm really quite excited about waking off this team. Now he's playing in probably his preferred position, which is 10 or in the hole, or however you want to call that, off the main striker. And whereas last year he was being asked to be like more of an 8, sort of attacking 8, more of a box to box. He's been allowed to link up with the wingers and the centre forward, and he looks so much better as a player for it. We know he can find a goal. We know he can find an assist. His delivery is great, especially from set pieces, and he can finish, and this is a great finish. So yeah, I could still see a late offer coming in for him, and I really think we should be trying to resist that. And really,
so we don't have him on a 4-year deal, don't we?
I would say it's probably a 4-year deal. It might even be a 4-year with an option of another one. So
I mean, definitely there's no need.
No.
And I think he seems happy. Like he's post-match interviews, he seems content and happy. Like he seems to have struck up a really good partnership with Casper Hu. He was doing the interview with Mika Bauer last night, or the night before, whatever it was. So he seems a happy camper. So if he's a happy camper and he's contributing with goals and assists, and it would appear he's now our set piece player. That was a concern.
He's got a couple of great free kicks last year as well. So
it's a concern for me for Arnie Engels leaving. You're thinking, well, who's going to be delivering the crosses in? So if he's stepping up to do that, then he's contributing even more to that team. Then it becomes a player that you'd be very hard pushed to drop out that team. But I think for me though, that just means that Arnie Engels replacement really, really needs to be the right player.
It needs to be a box to box engine.
You just got to balance out that midfield. Because Mika Bauer's got all the touches. Like he looks a really tidy player, but I just think that he will be the player when we are going to have ample possession and we're going to be piling on the pressure on the opposition. I just think if we're in the Champions League, I don't necessarily think Mika Bauer, I mean, it's early days. I mean, we'll see him for half an hour, but given his stature and everything else, I just don't know if he will be the preferred option. Particularly away from home in Europe. Like we'll need someone a bit more physical, I would have thought, and I would think Martinoneill probably thinks along those lines as well. But we'll see. Time will tell. The other player that came off the bench to make his debut, Paul, was Hassanian Hassan. Fresh off his exploits with Egypt for the World Cup, probably looked a wee bit underdone.
He hasn't played since that game against.
Hard to judge too much on
Argentina.
There was one run he made where if the ball was put into him, he was away, and Luke McCowan just played the ball behind him, and I was just like, that would have been the one chance he really had an opportunity to run it there left back, but didn't quite come off.
Yeah, I just got the impression that he obviously hasn't played since the Argentina game 4 or 5 weeks ago, and he probably hasn't trained that much either. He's had a bit of a holiday, I think the issue you've got is that, because he's an explosive type of player, he's a sprinter. He just one of the ones where he did sort of break and the defender sort of jockeyed him a bit and sort of jostled with him. I just thought he didn't really look like he wanted to put like the full pedal to the metal on that, because I think he maybe knows his fitness isn't quite at the level it should be. So he was potentially worried about a hammy or that kind of pull. So yeah, no, there'll be plenty to come from him. I don't think you will see him start on Wednesday, but I would expect him to be in the squad. And another week down the line, you think he would probably be putting himself into contention for starting or playing at least a bit more of a key role in the second leg. It'd be interesting to see what team gets selected on Wednesday. I think obviously KT comes back in. It looks like I want a quick word for Kobe Donovan, because there's been a lot of heat on him.
Thought he did well.
He played well, right? And obviously it's a massive step up for the last game, and we are putting ourselves at risk because there is a drop off, obviously, between Johnston, experienced Canadian international, and a kid in Donovan. But I thought he handles himself well. He stood up well. He blocked at the right time. He got himself forward. He was involved in a really good underlap, early doors. And yeah, I think we probably will be going with him. And it is a risk. It's definitely a risk. But I thought he played well when he was asked to fill in yesterday. Saturday. So yeah, we'll see. I think Bowers maybe forced himself into contention. Obviously, Oxlade-Chamberlain can't play. Bauer obviously had a couple of loose passes, as you would expect when he's just sort of getting into the team, but he looked confident. He looked like, even though he's a small kid, he looked like he's strong. Like that clash of heads, didn't bat an eyelid, walked away from it, stared down the opposition. I really liked it. To use a good Scots word, he showed a bit of gallousness in the back of that. And some of his touches...
Charlie McGrew said he's got a good barnet, because
yeah, he got a bit of cushioning on the hair.
Cushion in the hair. I think somebody made a comment on Twitter. I can't remember what it was, but somebody said, look, he's the most Formula One driver looking player we've probably ever signed. And if you actually look at Formula One drivers, you could put him in a cockpit and you would think that, yeah, he fits that bill. But I think you're right, Paul. I think he has to start, because we Luke McCowan, and Rio Itati is obviously out of favour. Oxlade-Chamberlain suspended.
McCowan had a great chance to score. Yeah, McCowan had a great chance to score as well. There was that great move late on, the breaking ball over the top. Duran, willing runner again, got round his man. Plays a great ball across the face of the goal, and McCowan's peeling to the back post. Like, you've got to run across your defender and try and get to the middle of the goals there. I just don't know what he's doing there. So yeah, I think Mika Bauer's got to start, and he looks like a player who wouldn't be fazed by that size of match. He looks like he's got some nice touches. He looks like he's obviously a slighter character, but he looks like he's obviously got running in him, and he's a young man, so hopefully he's got a good engine to kind of fill in that sort of more box to box role. You probably want him sort of giving a bit of support to Callum McGregor, but then busting forward as well to support the front players. And if we've not got somebody in ahead of this tie, but to your point, I think we should, because if they can't play in the first tie, or they're underdone, then they could potentially, if they're more of a defensive type of character, they could absolutely play in the away tie, and hopefully we've got something to defend, and we can be a bit more conservative in that second game.
Henrik Millarson was asking all the questions during the pod, Paul, so they're bringing them up. Who will hit the penalties now for Celtic? I think Casper, who would be your man?
Yeah, I would expect so. He took penalties for Bodo Glimt, so I would expect it would be who you kind of want your centre forward to take it. This is
horse riding's going well, Henrik Millarson. This is the Celtic third choice kit from 1993. Yep. But yes, I can see the slight jockey silts there, and the horse riding is going well. So thank you for asking. And then he's also saying, loving the Standy bromance. Yeah, I'm enjoying that as well. And then he's just saying here, does Mika Bauer not look like Edgar Allan Poe? Check that out. I will check that out and report back next week. Okay, cool. Man of the match, Paul. I've got two candidates. One was the official man of one was the official man of the match, which was Benji Niedren, as called by Charlie Mulgrew. I actually enjoyed his commentary. He was on Pro-Coms for the Premier Sports coverage. Him and Rory, whatever his face is, just seems a bit more levity than what's his face?
Michael Stewart,
Iron Lung, Sky Sports, Ian Crocker.
Oh, Ian Crocker, yeah.
Anyway, so that's what option number one, and then option number two is Sebastian Senecti. I actually thought he had a really good game. Carried a lot of threats. Got his goal, got his assist. Niedren got his goal and 2 assists. Paul, since you're not feeling well, I'll give you first dibs. I'm assuming they're the 2 that you had. I'm assuming
they aren't the 2 actually. So Senecti had a decent game, as I've acknowledged. Niedren was obviously there. My other was Camilo Duran. I thought his off the ball work rate was tremendous. I thought he gave an out ball. He obviously scored a really good finish. And yeah, I just really like the way he's sort of, he's taken a bit of a knock in terms of, he came to be a central striker. He wants to be a central striker, and he's just slotted into that right wing role, and he's doing a job for the team. So they were my 2. I think until I rewatched the highlights, I was leaning more to Duran. But I haven't watched the highlights. I don't think you can go past Benjamin Niedren. I think 2 assists and a really, really good goal. Just generally looks like he's a threat, and he had other good delivery into the box as well. So yeah, I agree with Big Charlie McGrew. Benji Niedren's my man of the match.
I will second that one, and yes, Benji Niedren. That's probably second man of the match award. You random Huns in the comments that I've had to delete because apparently they're up and about after one win after 5 matches or whatever it's been. So, God, you guys give yourself just like, you wonder why no one likes you. Anyway,
they don't care apparently, but yeah.
Oh yeah, they really do though, Paul. That's the thing. What have you got for us in the recommendation stakes this week, mate?
So yeah, I've got just one band and album to recommend this week. So there's a bit of a kind of renaissance of guitar-based music coming out of Ireland in the last few years. Obviously, Fontaines DC have sort of led the charge on that, but there's tons of bands coming through, and this is another one of this new batch. So the band's called Cardinals, and their first album, the debut album, was released in February of this year. It's called Masquerade. I was a little bit late getting to this. I sort of heard the odd single earlier in the year, which should have been recommended it last season, shouldn't I? But I never got around to actually listening to the whole album until over the closed season. So I've not been resting on my laurels over the closed season. I have been listening to plenty of music, so I've got quite a big list to recommend over the next few weeks, and there's still new albums coming out all the time. So yeah, Cardinals and Masquerade is my recommendation of the week.
Manish is saying, don't delete them. They're obviously gluttonous for punishment. When they bring up sex abuse as a point scoring exercise, they will always get deleted. My recommendation this week is a show that you actually recommended last season, Paul. I acquired a VPN while I was over in New Zealand to try and watch the World Cup. Well, it did work. I managed to watch the World Cup. So then I realized, oh, hey, there's all these British shows that I can watch, provided you can access the correct player and whatever. So finally getting a chance to catch up with season 2 and season 3 of Trigger Point. So Vicky McClure as Expo, Bomb Disposal. You wouldn't want to be in that cast because quite a high body count.
Yeah,
no spoilers, but
yeah. Don't get attached to any of the cast because there's a good chance they might get blown up. Some of them as well. But anyway, I'm enjoying that.
It's not really the show you want to watch right before you go to sleep, as we found out over the weekend. But yeah, enjoying it. Yeah, it's good. So yeah, definitely. If you haven't watched it, I'm sure if you're in the UK, you probably have watched it. But if you're in Australia, a VPN and ITV, you can access that one. I'm sure it's on Stan or whatever as well. It's on here somewhere.
I think it is on Stan in Australia.
So yeah, but I'm enjoying that. So, and I think there's a new season just about to drop as well. So they're advertising that at the moment on there. So that can't be too far away. And then we say, yeah, for ITV drama, it's pretty good. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. And then Strange Love the Doctor, he's our recommendation here. 2 movies to keep an eye on: Camp Miasma and Coyote versus Acme. Yeah, apparently that Coyote versus Acme, that wasn't ready to get released. They basically a tax write-off, and then they've been petitioned to release it. And apparently the critics think it's amazing. So it's a bit like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You've got the live action, like live actors playing off against the cartoons. And it's basically Wile E. Coyote's suing the Acme company because all the devices he uses to try and catch the Roadrunner all fail. So he's basically taking a lawsuit to the Acme company, and that's kind of the premise of the movie. So we're interested to see. It's very lighthearted, obviously, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. Another thing I'm going to check out, I'll report back next week, is the first episode of Lanterns dropped on HBO Max. So that's Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre as Green Lanterns. So they're rebooting that. So that looks pretty good. And a good way to finish, given our color palettes. And
well, I think just to highlight Paddy Lavery's comments there: save the cheerleader, save the world. Really sad news about Hayden Panettiere coming out today. So yeah, that was a brilliant show back in the day. Heroes. So yeah, if you didn't get a chance to watch that back in the day, check out certainly the first season or two. I think until writer strike probably did for that show a little bit. It sort of lost its momentum a bit during one of those. But yeah, the first season or two was excellent. So yeah, that was really sad news coming out of the States.
You're most welcome, Craig McLean. Alrighty. We're actually having a week off next week because Paul's away and there's no actual league action on the weekend. So we cover weekend action. There's not much point talking about a Champions League game that's like 5 days old by the time we come back on air next Monday. So we're actually having a wee hiatus. I may or may not be on Axom, depending on whether I can wake up at 2:30 in the morning, but I'll consider it. Paul's going to rest his voice and enjoy some time away with family. And yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. What game will we be covering then, Paul? That was the one thing I didn't look at before coming on air. I was like, where are we at? It will be, bear with me, dead silence on air. It's never great.
Yeah, it's not ideal, is it?
We'll be Celtic versus Falkirk on the 30th, I think, which is 2 weeks today. Yeah. So Falkirk at home.
That's right.
In the
home game. Yeah. So, and what's that? 10
so we'll either be in the Champions League or we'll be in the Europa League by then. So a lot happens in the world of Celtic very quickly, and hopefully a few more signings in the door by then as well. But we will be back. Everyone's enjoy themselves, stay safe, enjoy the Champions League qualifiers if you can, behind the couch, wherever you like to enjoy it. It won't be that bad. Hopefully not
that bad.
And yeah, I will be back in 2 weeks' time, and we'll be covering all things Celtic then. But all that's left to say, Paul, is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.